Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb, where a high school astronomy teacher tells you what you're looking at, why it's so cool, and what you should check out later this month at night. And we are talking about December of 2019 and January of 2020. Taking 2 months together this time around because I won't be here for the end of December. Cool thing is I'm going on a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Italy, and I'm going to check out where Galileo was buried. I'm going to check out Florence, where he did some of his observations, some Galileo stuff, and also, of course, Christmas with the family. So hopefully, if pay attention to my Instagram and Twitter, and you should see some fun stuff from that. So keep that in mind. But anyway, December and January, what's it going to be like for us in the night sky? Well, it's going to be cold. But we do have 6 close encounters, 2 meteor showers, 5 naked eye planets, and some very long nights. So let's start off with the events for the month, and let's first talk about the moon, what it's going to be, and where and when. Let's start off with December. Now, the first quarter moon will be on the 4th, okay? And the full moon will be on the 12th. So we're looking at the beginning of the month, some good crescents, and then the full moon midway through the month to give us bright skies. And then the last quarter moon is on the 18th. The left half is lit up, but it only rises at midnight, starting the 18th. And then the new moon is on the 25th. So that gives us the last 2 weeks are pretty much really good weeks to get out those telescopes and take a look at the night sky. Of course, any night is good, but there's less light pollution when the moon is last quarter or new. Then we move on to January, and it's very similar. The first quarter moon is on the 2nd. That means the right half is lit up and it's visible at sunset until midnight. Then the full moon is on the 10th. The last quarter moon is on the 17th. And the new moon is on the 24th. So again, the last 2 weeks are probably your best 2 weeks, especially if you get that nice new telescope for Christmas. Perfect time to take it out. Anyway, let's talk about things that are going on. Now, I know this is coming out a little bit late. Imagine that. But on the 1st, you might have noticed in the morning, and if I look to the east, in the morning, you might have seen Mercury and Mars coming up. In fact, even this morning, I think I was able to see Mercury pretty well. And what you have is a nice close encounter between Mercury and Mars. And they do get further away. So this morning, that's pretty much what I saw. And over the next couple days, Mercury starts to dive back in, but you should be able to still see it. At least for the first week, you should be able to see Mercury right up there with Mars over in the southeast, if you have a nice clear view. Now, you might have also noticed at sunset in the west on December 1st, you might have been able to see the moon, Jupiter, Venus, and Saturn all together there. Okay? Now, let's move ahead in December. Let's move up to December 10th, right? So December 10th, let's see what happens here throughout the days. Okay? Let me get it a little bit darker. There we go. So you'll notice that Jupiter gets lower and lower, and so does Saturn. And, Saturn's getting much closer to Venus. In fact, on the 10th and the 11th, but closest on the 10th, you will be able to see Venus and Saturn only 2 degrees apart. I will actually call this a conjunction. And so similar to when Venus passed Jupiter last month, Venus gets within 2 degrees of Saturn on the 10th. So all you have to do is get out around sunset, watch the southwest, find Venus. That's going to be the brightest one out there. And then just look up and to the right a little bit, and there will be Saturn. But the nice thing is that, as we just saw, it's not just the 10th. A couple days leading up to it are pretty good. And also, a couple days after are pretty good as well. So check that out. That'll be pretty nice. Also happening on the 13th and the 14th is the Geminid meteor shower. Now, it's not the best year for the Geminids, because if we look at the whole sky, okay, it's actually not bad right after, excuse me, right after dark. However, check this out. Here it comes up. The moon is already up by 6 o'clock. So it's going to drown out a lot of the dimmer meteors. However, you can still see some. So what you want to do is basically put the moon behind you and then look at the rest of the sky. So you'll be looking at Cygnus and Pegasus and just take a look. Now, you might only be able to see 10 or 15 an hour, which is not much, but it's better than nothing. Just make sure you bundle up, find a really dark spot, don't look at your phone, and just, hey, go out and take a look at the constellations, if nothing else. But anyway, that is on the 13th and the 14th. That's a nice peak there. And then let's see, December. What happens in December every single year? Well, you get to December 21st, and you have the longest day of the year for the shortest day of the year and the longest night of the year for the Northern Hemisphere. That is the winter solstice, okay? And let's see, December 25th, that's Christmas for a lot of us, those of us who celebrate that. It's going to be pretty good looking, especially if we look at sunset, 4:44, that's real early. Why we have these celebrations of light in anyway. You may be able to catch Saturn, but the beauty is going to be Venus, of course, on Christmas night, and really any night for this entire month. But what happens that's actually a close encounter is a couple days later. If we go to the 27th and the 28th and the 29th. Now let's look at the 27th, see if we can zoom in. This is what you might be able to see if you have a very good view of the horizon. You should be able to find the moon. It'll be a very, very thin crescent. Kind of tough to see, but start off by finding Venus. It's the brightest thing, the first thing you'll find. Go down and to the right to find the moon. In fact, about 13 degrees, that's a little more than a fist width, okay, held at arm's length. And let's see, a little bit further down and to the right will be Saturn. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but maybe. And then what happens, of course, the moon moves through, as we've learned, so that on the 28th of December, Venus and the moon will be real easy to find because Venus will be super bright, the moon will be a bit thicker and easy to find. Saturn, probably too tough to find. But they'll be up there, Venus and the moon, off in the southwest. And then if you go one more night into the future, they make a nice line. The moon's up here, Venus down and to the right. Just really good stuff. That will end out the year. I mean, of course, if you have the 30th and the 31st, then they're still somewhat in the same area. But then what happens is, well, not so much in January. In fact, there's three things happening in January. The first is on January 3rd and 4th. Now, January 3rd and 4th is the Quadrantids meteor shower, okay? And so what you want to do is get out there after the sun sets and just take a look out there. Now, we do have a first quarter, a little bit past first quarter moon, and that doesn't set until around midnight. So it's going to be up there. It's going to be drowning out some of the meteors, but it's still worth it to go out for maybe 10 or 20 minutes if you can keep yourself warm. So give that a shot. And then on the 20th to the 21st, in fact, let me go there, you are going to have to get up in the morning. If you get up in the morning, let's do sunrise. And, of course, we need to look east. Ooh, there we go. This is looking pretty good. Okay, let's check this out. You have a nice close encounter between Mars and the moon. Now, back it up a little bit. Oop. There we go. So the moon is not too far from Mars. And also there's this bright red Antares right here. And so this will be a neat little triangle with the moon, nice crescent shape. A twinkling but red Antares, which actually I find it twinkles many different colors. And then you've got the non-twinkling red Mars here. And in fact, Antares is known as the simulator of Mars. So they look very similar, but Mars will not twinkle because it's a disk of light instead of just a point. Okay? But there you've got the moon and Mars on the 20th and the 21st. Notice they just make a different size triangle. And actually, I think I noticed a little extra thing here. You might just be able to catch Jupiter down there. But anyway, the next event will be on the 27th and the 28th. And you notice it's with the moon, so we got to go back to sunset off in the west. We have a nice close encounter between Venus and the moon. So again, after sunset, okay, you'll see the moon with Venus almost straight up above it on the 27th. And then on the 28th, the moon is almost directly to the left of Venus. Okay? Yeah, beautiful, wonderful crescent. And you might even be able to pick up Mercury very, very low on the horizon on those nights as well. And yeah, that's pretty much our events for these 2 months. So make sure you get out there for the meteor showers and the close encounters. And yeah, let's talk about the planets. Talking about the planets, let's divide it up between sunset and sunrise. There aren't really any planets out there throughout the night, so let's break it up between those times and then move through the months. So let's start off with sunset. All right. So as we take a look up here for the sunset sky, we start off with the moon, Saturn, Venus, and Jupiter all lined up. And now, the thing is that Jupiter is going to disappear pretty quickly, all right? And so as we go through the months, you'll notice that Jupiter fades below the horizon. Let me zoom in a little bit more here. And Venus starts rising as Saturn is also falling. And so what you'll notice is, boop, 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 like we talked about, on the 10th, Saturn and Venus are together. But pretty much right now, you're looking at just Venus and Saturn as the sunset planets. And as the month goes by, you'll notice that Saturn gets lower and lower after sunset, and Venus gets higher and higher. A nice close encounter with the moon on December 28th and 29th. But then, oh, there we go. By the end of December, Saturn is gone. Okay, so Saturn, this is your last chance to see it. Okay? But it'll be lost in the sun's glare for January, okay? But Venus is up there. It's looking really bright. In fact, Venus over the 2 months rises up to about 30, whoops, I got to zoom out. It rises up to about 30 degrees, whoops, above the horizon by the end of the month of January. It's getting really high. It's going to be very bright. Oh, and there again. You notice that around sunset on January 27th, the last couple days of January, you will see Mercury get pretty high in the sky. In fact, it looks like the best time to look for it will probably be the first 2 weeks or week and a half of February. But not talking about February yet. Last day of January, you should be able to see Mercury just a little bit, in fact, less than 10 degrees above the horizon, so you'll need a very clear sky or a very clear horizon to see that. But again, sunset, you are looking at Venus, just gorgeous, super duper bright, the first thing you're going to see in the sky for December and January. Now, that brings us to the other side of the sky. There we go, let's look east. And we also got to look at the other side of the day. So let's look at sunrise, December 1st. And let's take a look at that sky. December 1st, in the morning before sunrise, we have Mars and Mercury gracing the southeastern sky. And so what you're going to find is that over the next week, Mercury is going to dive back toward the sun, okay? Remember, it's going to pop up later at the end of January to be an evening star or planet. Now it's a morning. but then it dives away, and what you're left with really is just Mars, right? So Mars will be up there in the morning. So to find Mars, you're going to want to get out after 5 a.m., but before sunrise, and look southeast, okay, to find the ruddy red point of light that is Mars. And so as we go through December, you'll notice it gets through Libra and then starts getting into Scorpius, and in fact gets really close to Antares, which just so happens to be the name for the simulation of Mars, or rival of Mars. And that's because Mars will be nice and red, and so will Antares. Now, there will be a difference, again, which Antares will twinkle, but Mars will not. But anyway, that is a good thing to see in the sky. Okay, so you got Mars in the morning. Oh, look, there's Jupiter. Okay, what's going to happen? Let me fast forward just a little bit. Oh, there's Jupiter. It's starting to come up. And by January 31st, you might just be able to catch it coming up as a morning planet. And the nice thing about that is it will become a morning planet for the next couple months. In fact, let me go forward into February. You notice that Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter will be morning planets. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm checking this out. Notice how they keep getting closer and closer? In fact, let's see. I bet they're going to be, oh, look at that. That is getting real close together. Saturn, Jupiter, and Mars in March will be super close to each other. That's probably the best time to look, mid-March. But that's looking ahead. That's not January or February. But again, basically you've got Venus as the sunset planet and Mars as the sunrise planet, with some other ones in between. All right, so let's take a look at the constellations that we can see. First off, if you're looking pretty much straight up after dinner, you're going to be looking at Cassiopeia, Andromeda, and Pegasus, and Perseus over here. So you look kind of south, but pretty much straight above you. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. Now, what we've got going on here is we've got Andromeda curving off of Pegasus here. You see these two curved lines. And you also have Cassiopeia right above that, looking like a giant W in the sky. Perseus is sort of another sort of cornucopia shape like Andromeda, but it's actually kind of emptying out toward the Pleiades, and it's kind of an opposite curve of Andromeda. But it's also really nice. You might see Aries the ram there and Triangulum if you're good and you remember that stuff. And also, so that's what you're looking at after dinner. But let's say you like to get out there before bed, and let's say you go to bed at 10:30. When you're looking straight up, you should be able to find Taurus the Bull quite easily. It's this V-shaped constellation in the sky, just real easy to find. Plus, it's got these two up here, which are the tips of the horns of the bull. But even better than that is the Pleiades over here, the Seven Sisters, Subaru, the Mini Dipper. You can see probably 6 with your naked eye, but as you zoom in, you can actually see hundreds with a telescope. It's just a beautiful cluster that's up there. And if you draw a line from the Pleiades down through Taurus to Orion, you'll find Orion down here, which I'm going to get into in the next upcoming months. Now, lastly, if you are like me and you get up early and you start going to work before the sun rises, you could be looking at, let's fast forward here a little bit. Oh, there we go. Leo the Lion. That's one of my favorite ones to find because it's easy. It's this backward question mark with this right triangle to the left of the question mark. If you're super good, you might be able to find the Big Dipper, follow the arc to Arcturus, the brightest star in Bootes, and then speed on to Spica, the brightest star in Virgo, which is, I don't know, I just really like those constellations. They're very nice. But anyway, those would be the constellations to check out. Don't forget that You have 2 meteor showers this month. You have lots of close encounters, these 2 months, lots of close encounters and a conjunction. And you really should just have a really good 2 months, especially if you get a nice telescope for Christmas, so or whatever holiday you are celebrating. So either way, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Festivus, Saturnalia, whatever you are celebrating. And I hope you have a happy new year, and I wish you very clear, dark skies for the next 2 months.